Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is John. This is my channel, The Origin Factory. It's July 23rd, 2024, Tuesday. Today we're going to revisit Vanquish Origin. But before I get to all that, I want to thank our subscribers. That's what helps us out the most right now. If you haven't subscribed yet, if you could please subscribe if you're willing to do that. That's what helps us out the most right now as a new channel. And if you're currently subscribed, if you could please continue to support us by either like, commenting, or sharing, be greatly appreciated. So on to Vanquish Origin. So in a previous video, we did an unboxing of a new original Vanquish Origin and covered all the parts and all the stuff that came with it originally from Vanquish, how it was packaged originally. And just to give a heads up for people that were looking at purchasing new in the box ones, to make sure it had all the parts and a little bit of history and background of what makes an Origin an Origin. So today we're going to build one, and we're going to build it from used parts that I've been acquiring for several months to build one. So we're going to switch over to the overhead camera, and we're going to look at all the parts it takes to build one. These are, like I said, these are all used parts. Most of them are as is. A couple of them I've refurbished a little bit to get them a little bit better looking, but for the most part, they're mostly used parts. And also, we're in the middle of a thunderstorm, so I don't know how much of that's going to bleed through in the audio, how much you're going to hear in the background. So if you hear any big thunder boomers or anything like that, I'm not being shot at. It's Mother Nature giving us more rain that we don't currently need. Mosquitoes love it, but we're a little saturated here. So let's switch to the overhead camera, and I'll be right back. Let's start with the center here. And what we got here is a Vanquish axial 3-gear transmission, which is at the heart of a Vanquish Origin. This is essentially an axial 3-gear, but Vanquish's version. Basically everything on it is beefed up and much stronger than an axial. Full bearings, all metal gears, metal case. I should say the spur gear is not metal. So whatever. That's what it is. So yeah, so these are still currently available from Vanquish. These I think are like $165 retail right now. That's what they've been for a while too. You can find these used. And used, of course, prices are all over the place depending on condition. I think this one I got at a local swap meet for $100, which was a really good deal. I see them on the Vanquish groups on Facebook, usually between $120 and $140 for ones that are in good shape. Like I said, this one I got for $100, and it doesn't have a scratch on it. It's a little dirty, but I don't think it was ever used much. So that's what we can expect for one of those. Next, we'll go over the bumpers. I'm hearing some thunder now. So these bumpers, I rarely find clean used bumpers because usually I am buying bumpers off of trucks that were driven. So these were reconditioned. And this is something you can do to help save some money because when fresh bumpers come up, they get a lot of money. Usually over $300, $350 for ones that are usable that don't need to be refinished. Used bumpers, you might be able to get a pair for half of that. There's nothing said about pricing on used parts and for stuff that's discontinued. So these are just prices I've seen. Doesn't mean you're going to pay that much or pay less or more or whatever. These are just my observations at the time of filming this. So yeah, so these were scratched on the underside. I did sand them out. I did refinish them. I had them re-anodized. I sent some other parts with. And anodizing isn't terribly expensive. So don't be intimidated by that. It's not a big deal to have the parts refinished. And if you get hooked up with a good anodizer, I'm not going to mention any names during the video because I don't know how long this video will be up in time and space. So people I'm doing business with now might not be in business when I make this video and so forth. So anyways, reach out on the Facebook groups if you're looking for an anodizer or recommendation if you want to refinish stuff. Next, we'll cover the sliders. So these are the sliders. These little pieces here, there's 4 of them. There's 2 for each side. They're called the standoffs. And what they do is they mount the sliders to the chassis rails. And then there's a piece of black Delrin that goes on the bottom side that acts as a skid, or as a slide, also kind of like a slider. As you can see, this one's pretty scratched up. This one's used. These are not currently available. I don't know of anybody that has these. I've had new ones made through Send Cut Send. The biggest drawback to it was the original ones are a 1/16 of an inch, and Send Cut Send only has an 1/8 of an inch. So they are literally twice as thick, which isn't a huge deal. I made a stack of them and to use on my projects, and they weren't terribly expensive. I mean, I think I spent $20-$30 for over a dozen of them. And that was just to try and meet a minimum requirement. Like, if they're going to charge me this much, I might as well get this many made type thing. So you can get these made from Send Cut Send if you really want to. Like I said, the only problem with them is they're a little bit thicker. Other than that, they can match them perfectly. So yeah, so these are sliders. These are used. They're in really good shape. It's got 1 nick in them. Vanquish just finally ran out of their inventory of these not that long ago. And they were still being sold for $75 a pair for new in the package. So I don't know what price is gonna be for these now. There's still a lot of these floating around new in the package, so I'm guessing the price might double now. Maybe they'll be like $150 a pair for new, and then used anything less than that, depending on condition, possibly. So I have seen the sliders sold with the standoffs and the Delrin for used ones for $300. So expect something in that price range. So like when I sent out the bumpers to be refinished, I'm using a chassis kit from Vanquish, a VS410 chassis kit to build this today. So it comes with a black panhard mount bar. And so when I redid the bumpers, I sent this out with it to get it re-anodized and clear, so it would look more like an original Vanquish Origin where all the anodized parts are color matched. So if you're building a clear panhard bar mount was the way they came. But this video isn't about right or wrong. We're just showing you what you can do to build these things. The incision drive shafts came on these guys too. Another thing, you can buy these used in really good shape for $30-$40 because these things don't see a lot of abuse. I've even bought them during Trucks of Fortune because it seems like they do give these out a lot during Trucks of Fortune. And guys will sell off their Trucks of Fortune finds, so you might be able to save $10 or $15 buying these from somebody on the Facebook groups. And then we got the infamous braces, which would be the upgrade braces that didn't come with the original Origin, but it did come with the black, I believe. These are another thing. These are kind of an oddball piece that are expensive too. I've seen them bouncing around the $300 range for the pair in really good shape. Prices are all over the place on this stuff because, it's just getting used. People are buying these now are just getting used to the idea that Vanquish isn't ever going to make them again. So prices haven't really settled out yet. Another thing, typically what the Origin came with originally was 90mm incision shocks. Another thing, you can buy these for a pretty good deal too, used. Usually I see them used for around $50 a pair, and new they're about $100, or I shouldn't say. I find them used for $50 a set, meaning all 4. And I think you can still get them from Vanquish new for $50 a pair. So you can get them used usually around half price. So that's another way you can save a few bucks. These are going to be the most expensive part of an Origin build, and these are the D44 axles. The housings are still available from Vanquish, and the knuckles, and the guts. I mean, everything to build the D44 is still available. I mean, it's still a popular axle. I don't see these going away, and I don't see any reason why they would. They're still very popular because they resemble a General Motors, or not General, a Dana axle, like a Dana 60 in the real world. So, but yeah, these housings new are around $270, and that's with no guts, no gears, no knuckles, no CVDs. And if you were to buy, say, F10 straight axles from Vanquish, which are currently available, those are around $220 for the pair. So the rear housing is like $130, the front housing is like $140, the knuckles are like $50. So that's $270 plus $50 is $320. And then if you buy axle kits for $220 from Vanquish, now you're up to $540. Yeah. They add up real quick. I mean, so when you see used axles or maybe ones that are built for under $500, that's not that bad of a deal. I mean, I've seen them sell for $420 to $480, $450, somewhere in there, and it's like that's a lot less money than building them. So yeah, if you're trying to find a set of D44s, yeah, look on the Facebook groups and the Vanquish pages and see if you can find a set for less money, because there's deals out there on them sometimes. I mean, I can't guarantee you that, but since these are currently available, the price doesn't get driven up like some of the parts that are specific to the Origin. So, and then of course you're going to need links. Links are another thing you can get good deals on from people that are parting them out, because a lot of people just don't need links. It's because a lot of people have an existing truck and they're not looking for fresh links. They're just looking for upgraded parts off a part out, to add to theirs or fix something, and links usually survive. So sometimes you can get a nice set of links for $30, $40 versus buying them new. So yeah. So what's not currently available, I didn't cover that. So these bumpers are not available from Vanquish anymore. These braces are no longer available. And the sliders are no longer available. And the standoffs are no longer available. And the Delrins are no longer available. So, and Vanquish has said many times on their live streams they have no intention of reproducing Origin-specific parts, meaning stuff that only applies to that kit. So these parts, as of now, probably gone forever. I mean, of course, who knows what history will show. Maybe they'll make a re at some point in their history later on from now, but as of now, they said they have no intention of rebuilding any of the Vanquish specific parts. So prices will be all over the place on this stuff. I don't know I don't even know how they'll change in the next 6 months. I mean, they may go up even more. I don't know. I mean, they'll only go so high, of course. They'll plateau at some point, but who knows? But yeah, so as of right now, and then also you're going to need from Vanquish, what's still currently available is the skid plate and cross members kit for VS410. And I'll show you that when we put it together. And this is kit VPS 10115. I'll put this in the description. And also what you're going to need is the VS410 chassis kit, which is VPS 10130, and this is like $121 retail. And then the skid kit was $17. So yeah, I mean, we're getting up to just this pile of parts right here. We're getting up to $1,600, $1,700, and that's for used parts, not all the parts being new. So yeah, I mean, it's expensive to build an Origin right now, and it always will be, because there's just a lot of parts that are a premium, and it's going to be hard to ever get away from that, $500 price tag for the axles minimum, you know, or if you have to buy all new parts, it's going to be closer to $600. So yeah, I mean, and that's what's, you know, and in comparison right now, the new release, the Optic H10, which is a ready to run kit, that's $499, you know, so you're buying, you know, you're going a couple $100 more just to buy a set of axles to build an Origin. These are not cheap to build. So when you see them used under $2,000 and they're not beat up and maybe the metal's all clean on them, that's probably a pretty fair price because these are not cheap to build, unfortunately. So yeah, so we're going to put this together and I'll be right back. So first I'm going to show what we're going to be using out of the skid plate crossmember kit, which is VPS 10115, and it's $16.99 retail from Vanquish. So here's what's all in the kit. We've got a skid plate designed for an axial 3-gear style transmission. We have these frame rail mounts that are to support the battery tray. That we need those. This is a rear cross member that goes over the rear axle between the frame rails. This is kind of like a filler, like a bumper. We don't need that. And then we also have this servo mount that goes between the frame rails over the front axle. So if you have these upgraded chassis braces, if you have these, you won't need the servo mount. If you want to save a few bucks and not buy these pieces because they are getting to be very expensive, you can build it without these. These are not necessary to build this. You can save a few $100 on those. So you can use the original, you can use it like they originally released the kit. So depending on if you have those braces or not, whether or not you use this, but you do need these frame rail mounts for the battery tray. You do need this cross member for the rear, and you do need the skid plate with the spacer, but it's also included in the frame rail, the chassis kit. So you're going to have an extra skid plate. Anyways, so now we're going to open up the chassis kit and we'll show you what we're using out of there. So you get a lot of extra pieces with the chassis kit that you're not going to use, unfortunately. At least not for an Origin build. Like this is, there's your extra skid plate for axial 3-gear. And this is some other servo mounts and brackets you're not going to use because I've already taken the skid out of the other kit to use for this build. This bag has got the shock mounts, shock towers, and some other stuff that we're not going to use. But yeah, we do need the shock mounts from here. I call this the horseshoe battery tray because it is horseshoe shaped. I don't remember if Vanquish calls it that or not, but whatever. So there's your horseshoe battery tray. So it's it's a toss-up if you want to buy all these parts individually. Here's some sliders. These you could use. So here's another thing you could substitute if you don't want to. So the pieces that we call the standoffs, these you could use instead of. And you could mount your aluminum sliders to these guys. Let me open them up so you can see them a little better. So if you don't want to spend that money for those little standoffs, if it's not crucial to you to have an exact, Origin. So these will substitute. That'll save you some money too, because these standoffs are usually like $150 a pair. So that's the updated version that eliminates the standoffs that they use started using on the Pro, for example. So yeah, you can use these that come in the chassis kit and bypass the standoffs. So that's another way you could save you know, $100 and some or whatever. In this bag that has the front servo mount, like they started using on the Pro and the Ultra and the Phoenix and the Fordyce and all those. You could use this instead of that other, instead of the battery tray that comes with it, or battery tray, the servo mount that comes with it. You know, especially if you don't have the upgraded brace either. You could use this. Where this doesn't work though is it doesn't work with Origin bumpers. Because if you put these face to face, you can see this is the upgraded brace. It's got cutouts here for the bumper. And you can see on the other piece that comes with it, it doesn't have cutouts for the bumpers. So you cannot use the original Vanquish bumpers on a Origin build. You can't use this brace with the original Origin bumpers is my point. What else in here? And then you need the frame rails and all the hardware, which is right here. So yeah, I mean the chassis rail kit is $121, I think it is right now. So there's a lot of pieces in here that kind of add up to that. You know, if you have some of these pieces already and you can source out the rest and buy them individually, like the battery tray is, I think the battery tray now is close to $30, you know, and frame rails are $40-50 or something like that. So it will save you a little money by buying it in a kit, and then you get all the hardware also. So, I mean, that's your discretion. The kit does also, chassis rail kit does come with a panhard bar mount. Like I said earlier, it comes with a black one, and I sent mine out to be re-anodized when I had my bumpers fixed. So that's a way to get that done if you wanted to have a clear one versus a black one. So yeah, let's start putting this thing together. So with the chassis kit comes instructions. It doesn't 100% relate to what we're doing, but it is kind of a good quick guide to show you where the hardware is intended to be used. Like you'll see on here that almost everything going through the frame rail is a 3x10, and that's what you have the most of. So what we're going to do first is we're going to build the frame rails in halves, with all the cross members attached, and then we'll join it to the other half. So off to my right, this being my right over here, this is the frame rails as far as we're concerned is the front. I mean the front of the truck. And this would be, on the left would be the rear. Get Mr. Mike out of the way. So like I said, almost everything going through the frame rails is with a 3x10. Yeah, 3x10. Pretty much everything. So attaching the skid, we don't need the standoffs attached yet. We can put the skid in first. And we'll use power tools. Why not? So if you look at the frame rails here, this is the bottom. This is where the links go through, these right here. These here are to mount the skid to the chassis, or the skid to the frame rails. So we're using these right here to mount the skid. Something you need to be aware of is, like I said, this being the front of the truck, your transmission. So if you have other Vanquish products, you know, the VFD is pretty much centered. Well, an axial 3 gear is not. It's off to one side. So with this being the front of the truck, you know, if this was the driver sitting here and this is the rear axle, this is the front axle, transmission goes off to the left side frame rail. Because you can mount this skid either way and it'll go together. But you'll have to take it apart because it's designed for the transmission to go this way. So remember that the spur gear guard goes forward and the base of the largest piece of the transmission goes to the left side. And also this cross brace that we're using from that kit, this is not symmetrical. So we got this wider here and narrower here. This goes to the front. This wide piece goes to the rear. And this uses 3x10s also. And we're using, there's 4 holes in the frame rail right there. And we're using the 2 outside holes because the 2 inside holes are for the shock towers. Okay. Transmission back over there. So with the cross brace in the front, the one that holds the servos, half of what holds it in is the shock tower mounts, which are countersunk. Uh, 3x10s, so they're 3x10s also. And note that the body post goes towards the center. The body post doesn't go to the front. And why that is important is because the body posts on the Origin body, if you're using the, you know, the original Origin body, the full cab, those body post holes are pre-drilled. So the only way this is going to line up perfect with the original Origin body is if you put the shock towers in the right spot. And we're going to put the rear shock tower on, which is that one. And there's still 3 holes remaining on the last one, or on the rear one. And we are using, so we've got the 2 outside ones holding that cross brace in. And so we're using the last ones that are available towards the rear. And then once again, the shock or the body post mount goes towards the center of the truck. And we're using the 3x10 countersunk. As you can see now, we're kind of just about to the halfway point on this side. We still got to put our updated cross brace in the rear. Switch heads on my driver here. Wrong one. Short one goes in the front. Long one goes in the rear. Let's see, what else goes between the frame rails? Nothing. Nothing that can't be put in later. Yes. So we're going to put the other half on, the other half of the frame rail. Now we've flipped it 180, so now in my left hand on the left side over here is the front of the truck. And we're going to put more of those 3x10s in to hold this beast together. Whoa, shocks flying. Shocking. So now we can put the panhard mount, which goes on the left side, front, which mounts through the frame rail into that servo bracket, which also uses a 3x10. I don't, yeah, that's the one I use, 3x10. Now we're back to the non-countersunk ones, socket heads. That's where the panhard goes. Let's put the shock towers in now while we're thinking about it. Once again, you notice the body post to the rear. Believe me, trying to save you headaches here. Nothing more frustrating than taking your shock towers off and repositioning them all because you put them in the wrong way after you put the whole thing together. Then you got to take the shocks off. And how do I know? I've done it before. So if anything I hope I can do for you guys more than anything is help you not make the mistakes I have made, hopefully. Same rule of logic for the rear. Shock tower, the body post face towards the center. Switch our bits back. Countersunk uses a smaller bit. Zoom back out a little bit. So yeah, so that's just about it for the chassis. Let's see, we got to put the there. So that's our chassis. We got that front bracket. Like I said before, if you don't have that extra brace because you want to save a few bucks, you can use that servo mount instead, and that'll still accept the Origin bumpers. There's that rear brace. Like I said, it's not critical to have it to build it, to build an Origin. You know, the original version of the Origin did not come with that. It was something that came with it later. So, shock towers. Yeah, so let's we're going to jump to next on the directions. I'm using the directions as a guide, even though it's not quite 100% applicable to what we're doing, but at least it gives me a reference of what hardware to use where. So let me, I'm going to jump off here for a second, and I'm going to attach all the links to the axles, and then I'm going to attach the axles with the links attached as like a sub-assembly. So take a break here for a second. Okay, so I jumped ahead a little bit and attached the links to the axles. And now I'm going to attach them to the skid plate. So the upper links on these have to go through standoffs. So the standoffs point towards the center. You see how they have this flange? The flange goes on the frame rail, and this center section is milled out on the top side, and the bottom side has threaded holes that are flush with the surface. Those go towards the bottom. They sit in there like that. But what goes through this flange is the bolt that mounts the upper link to the skid. So you've got to stick your screw Now we can use our driver again because we're not. So now, because we only have one upper link and then a panhard bar, we don't have an upper link on the other side. We have only an upper link on the would be the right side of the frame rail. So now we're on the left side, and we're going to mount the standoff. It's going to go through the link mount, but there's no link on this side. So if you were, and the reason it has the links on both sides is this is also designed to work with axial trucks, and axial uses 4-link front and rear, whereas Vanquish uses 4-link in the rear and 3-link with a panhard in the front. So this would work with a Vanquish, or I mean, would work with an axial truck also. So there is, I got the panhard mounted. And then the front standoff is mounted. Then our 3 links minus, then the panhard bar. So now we will do the rear links. Okay, now we got all 4 links in the rear attached with the standoffs. Now I think we should add we can add the transmission now. Let's do that real quick. That's an easy one. And we'll do the drive shaft at the same time. Four holes that mount the transmission to the, or there's 4 screws that mount the transmission to the skid. Those you don't have to Loctite. That's into plastic. Or I shouldn't say that. It's steel into aluminum and they bite pretty good. I am going to check it hand tight. I don't have the torque set real high right now. I don't want to strip any threads out. Yeah, you can go another quarter turn. Like, yay. So now we need to put the shocks on before we put the front and rear drive shaft on the axles. Because as you see how the axles are hanging loose way below there. If you don't put the shocks on first, they will overextend and just pull the drive shafts apart, which is no good. So now I got to get some hardware for the shocks to mount to the axles. So we're gonna take a pause here. So I jumped ahead a little bit and got the shocks mounted to the axles. So a couple of last things we still have to do is we got to do the battery tray, we got to do the sliders, and we got to do the bumpers. These these shocks have the heavy springs on them. Yeah, this is going to be a little stiff for this one. Vanquish does make more than one size of spring for these shocks, and these are obviously the heavy ones. So, which, I don't know, might not be a big deal for today. The drive shaft. There's the other set screw. Where's the short one? So the top one is the short one, so that one goes to the front. Remember to sink your drive shaft so that the yoke is oriented exactly the same on both ends to keep it from binding through suspension travel. And if you've never thought about that, it may have caused you problems. And I already have blue Loctite on the front shaft, so that's why I didn't put it on that one. But we will add it to the back one. First we got to orient our sink our shaft. Nope, not quite. There we go. Yokes match up. Yeah, I gotta get a little bit of Loctite. Oh, that's a lot more than a little. Wipe a little off on the garbage bag. There. Now we got drive shafts. Ta-da, 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 ta-da. I think we can put the rear bumper in right now without any fuss. Let's see what size, what length we need. That's so yeah, we're going to use the 10s again, the 3x10s. Which is the popular screw for this particular build. Had a little tightness in the threads, so we powered through it and cut ourselves some new threads. No, it wasn't that bad. It was just bound up a little bit. And we're in the home stretch now. God, that one's tight too. Well, she's fine now. Front bumper, front bumper, front bumper. So now for the front bumper, you need long screws because they got to go all the way through and into that new cross brace if you're running the cross brace. You have to find screws for that. And I got to find screws not for those. Those will work. Let's see, which ones work? We use 3x10s for those too. Yeah, everything uses 3x10s. Now we got sliders. Hey. So we got sliders, we got drive shafts, we got rear bumper, front bumper needs some hardware. Yeah, we are almost done with this chassis. Let me go find some hardware and I'll be right back. Okay, we got some hardware for the front bumper. Now we got bumpers. So if your Delrins are a little scratched up and ugly, you can always flip them over. And they almost look new. Kind of, sort of. They look better than they do the other way. The downside to doing this is that the other side's countersunk, so the screws fit a lot better. So if you want the screws to go flush like they were the other way, you will need to countersink them a little bit. Well, let's do the battery tray. Let's get that in there real quick. Because there's something I got to show you with that. Let's get that in there. Because I got to show you these little guys. These little guys. These are what came with that kit that I said you got to buy for $16. Well, this is part of the reason you're buying this kit. Is to mount this in here, is to get the battery tray mounted. So yeah, there's our battery tray. There's our sliders, servo mount, bumper, rear bumper, front bumper, suspension, drive shafts, sliders, Delrin. The only thing else you need to add is your. I saw two things I forgot. So the panhard mount has two screws going into that servo tray. the servo bracket or the cross brace or whatever you want to call it. But you've got 2 short screws in this kit to go to the other side. And they're short to make up for the thickness, because the thickness of the panhard bar keeps them from going in too deep. So they put shorter ones on the other side since it's only going through the frame rail. Yeah. There we go. So yeah, so that's an Origin. Like I said, add the fender wells if you choose to, and body posts and a servo and a ESC and a motor, and you're ready to go. So that's our Origin build. Like I said, there's some pieces that are still supported by Vanquish. A lot of the, pretty much all the pieces that are specific to the Origin are no longer supported. And according to the last live stream, it sounds like they have no plans of building those parts. So your only chance of getting like the bumpers and the sliders and the standoffs is Facebook groups, eBay, you know, private parties selling the stuff. Prices will be all over the place on that stuff. I can't promise you a good deal. I can't promise you'll even find the part. But anyways, covered that in the beginning a little bit, more of the prices and that kind of stuff, the ins and outs. So, yeah, I mean, if you're interested more in about stuff about Origins, we are on Instagram under the Origin Factory also, and we're under Facebook. We have a group called the Origin Factory there as well. So, once again, I want to thank our subscribers. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for all that you do to us, or do for us. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you're willing to do that, that helps us out the most right now as a new channel. And if you are subscribed already, if you could continue to support us by either like, commenting, and sharing, that'd be great also. So yeah, hope you guys have a great week. Yeah, this is how you would build an Origin if you're going to collect the piece and parts yourself and scrap one together. Like I said, a lot of the parts, there's a lot of parts out there that are still available. Some are, you know, crossover to other applications, so you can still buy them new from Vanquish. But like I said, the Origin specific parts are getting a little tougher, a little bit harder to find. Not all the parts are necessary to make something that looks like an Origin. So, you know, you can build it however you like to suit your needs the most. But if you're going for the full boat, it's going to be kind of expensive. If you're looking for just a close facsimile, there's lots of ways to cut the corners that I mentioned in the video. So yeah, have a great week. We'll see you soon. God bless.